Okay, on the back up at the top, the circle graph shows the results of a survey that asked 500 shoppers. So this is representing 500 people to pick their favorite of 3 new iced tea blends. What fraction, so we're going to do just like we did on that very last problem, what fraction of the total number of shoppers chose TA as their favorite? The total number of shoppers who were surveyed, so the total number of shoppers who were surveyed, that was 500. To the number of shoppers who chose TC as their favorite. So think about that page we did the other day, the bar graphs. When it said compare, it wanted us to divide really. So compare the total to TC.
The total is 500.
Right. And so now I need to figure out the amount of people that chose TC. So 30% now becomes 0.3 because I moved it 2 spaces to the left. And multiply that by 500. Because we're trying to figure out how many people that 30% is. That's 150. So compare, divide 500 by 150. And I can do the same thing. They both end in 0. I'm going to cut those off. So really 50 divided by 15. See, 3 is 45.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. 10, 3, 10. You made me jump it.
I was going to say, I think it's going to keep on going. So I'm going to say 3.3 repeating. How many more, on number 3, how many more, what does that tell us?
Subtract.
We're going to end up subtracting. How many more shoppers chose TA? So we're going to subtract team A. We're going to say TA minus TB. How many more shoppers chose TA than TB as their favorite? So I know 220 people chose TA, but let's figure out how many chose TB. So again, turn that percent into a decimal, 0.26, and multiply it by 500. Yeah, you can do that if you know the total people and you already know the majority of them. If you know 2 out of the 3, add those together and subtract to see what you get instead of all the multiplying. So TA was 220 people minus TB, which is 130 people. What do we get?
90.
90, do we agree? 90. Okay, number 4. Okay, we're going to skip number 4 for time's sake down at the bottom. Okay, 200 vegetables in all. So total is 200. And then they break it down. 11% peppers, 32% tomatoes, 36% corn. Okay. How many of the vegetable plants are green beans? Green beans, where are we? 12%. What do I need to do? How many actual green beans are there out of 200?
200 times 0.12.
Turn that percent into a decimal, so that's 0.12. Multiply it by 200. 200 times 0.12. 24. So there's 24 green beans out of the whole garden. Number 6, how many of the vegetable plants are either, so that means we're going to combine cucumbers or peppers. So how many percentage-wise, how many cucumbers and peppers do we have?
20. 19.
Students and teachers.
Oh, wait.
It said either, so we're going to combine them. So combined percentage, 11% plus 9% is 20%. Okay, so take 20%. Instead of doing 2 separate problems, take the 20%, turn it into a decimal, and multiply that by 200. Okay? So that would be 40. Then number 7, what fraction of the total number? So total number goes on the bottom. of the plants are corn plants. Okay. Number 8, how many more? So that tells us we're gonna subtract. How many more tomato plants are in the garden than green beans? So tomato minus green beans. How many green, we already know that. Green beans, we had 24. But do we know tomatoes yet?
No.
Not just yet. So do the same thing. 0.32 times 200. Good. Sorry. 64. So I've got 64 tomato plants minus 24 green beans. 40. So I've got 40 more tomato plants than green bean plants. And for now, we're gonna skip that number 9, okay? Okay, so I tried to make this more complicated than was necessary, but if you notice, I skipped a couple up at the top. I read the question and then it just went black. So we're gonna go back up here to the top. Number 1, what fraction of the total number of shoppers chose TA as their favorite? I tried to make that more complicated, but TA, 44% out of what would be the whole, that would be 100%. So all you have to write down would be 44 out of 100 and simplify it that way. And then we can reduce that down to 11, 4 can go into both those numbers, 11 over 25. That'd be your answer. Okay, and then same thing down here at the bottom, maybe. Okay, it just went crazy. On number 7, what fraction of the total number of plants are corn plants? So you can do like we've been doing and get the actual number. You'll get the same answer as far as a fraction, but it is a lot easier if you just see it as the percent out of 100. And so there's 36% corn out of 100%. And so then we can reduce that to be 9 over 25. 4 will go into both of those numbers, okay? So you get the same answer, but if it's asking what fraction and you're dealing with percents, it's a lot easier to just put that number over 100. Okay, and then, yep, on number 9. Okay, on number 9, what you would want to do, write a ratio that compares the part of plants that are cucumbers to the part of plants that are corn, okay? So cucumbers to corn. So the cucumbers, that 9%, we would have to write as 0.09 and multiply that by 200. And we would get, if we worked that out, it'd be 18. Cucumbers, or corn, I mean, would be 0.36 times 200, and we get 72. Okay, so it says write a ratio that compares the part of plants that are cucumbers, so they gave us that first. Cucumbers to corn. Okay, so I'm going to put 18 over 72, and that can reduce down to 2/8, which can reduce down to 1/4, and so that's our answer as a fraction. As a decimal, if we divided that, 1 divided by 4, we would get 0.25, and then 0.25, move that decimal over, 25%.